Please welcome to the stage our chef CEO, Barry Crist.
Let me just start with a huge thank you to every one of you. I want to thank you for being part of our community. I want to thank you for being our customers. I want to thank you for using our software. I want to thank you for being our partners. And I want to thank you for spending the time to be with us in Seattle this week. I also want to thank the people that are on the live cast, and I want to thank everyone that helped put this whole thing on over the next couple days. Okay, so I got 3 things that I want to accomplish this morning. First of all, we have a lot of collective learnings between all of us here, and I want to share some of these things, and I want to help us all be more successful in the things that we're doing every day. The second thing I want to do is I want to give you a video artifact that you can go back and share some of these collective learnings with those that weren't fortunate enough to come here today. And then I get asked all the time what's going on in chef land, how's chefs, so I want to talk about and give a quick chef update. Okay, so look, here's why we're here, and I mean we're here as in chef existing, or why I work for chef, or why I think we're here in Seattle, is it's all about how to help you, and I mean you in 2 different ways. I mean you, the individual, and then I mean you, your organization. How do we help you become digital ass kickers, right? That's what the game's about right now. And I think there's 2 sides of this coin, and the first side is how do you create customer value all the time and on an ongoing basis and at velocity? And then if you do that, you get all this other stuff, right? Consistency, efficiency, security, so forth. And as I go out and meet with you and meet with your leadership teams, you know, it's interesting because I can pretty quickly get some tells when I listen to people talk about their IT priorities. And I would just posit that orient on that first job. And if you do that, and that's your North Star, the choices you will make to be a high-velocity organization will also be the same choices to make sure you're efficient and consistent and secure. Because if you are not, for example, consistent in the things that you do in IT, by definition, it'll be difficult to be high velocity. Or if you spend an enormous amount of energy on a quarterly basis passing an IT audit, that's just friction. Again, that's slowing down that velocity thing. So my advice, as strong as I can give it, make the North Star the velocity and customer value, and then all the other things will flow from that. And because I can't go say digital ass kicker all the time, it's a little bit of a mouthful, the term that we will use for that, and we've probably already seen it, is the coded enterprise. And the coded enterprise, I think, actually describes how high-performing organizations are working in today's world. So this is what I'm going to unpack a little bit. I'm going to talk about a little later what are the things that make up coded enterprises. And I think there's not a question, hopefully, in anyone's mind that those that are adopting the new way, they're winning out there in the marketplace, right? They ship products more frequently and faster. They make more top-line revenue. They make that revenue more profitably. And it flows all the way through, if you're a public company, to your market capitalization. And yet, while the benefits are big, you know, we probably all should acknowledge it's tough. It's tough getting there. If you're in an enterprise, you're dealing with org friction, got a bunch of cultural barriers of how you used to work. The third one's kind of a hot one for me because I think that too often we accept slow, right? And it's okay. And we make a deal with, well, this part of the organization can go fast and the rest of it doesn't have to. And I just keep pushing into that because while you may not update, say, a legacy application with the same cadence that you do a mobile application, when you need to, for example, if you have a security vulnerability and you need to apply a patch, I want you to be able to do that quickly in a low-drama, tested way, no muss, no fuss. And that's what the highest performing organizations do. And then lastly, and this is what really sets apart the enterprise from a company that was sort of born in the web era, is you may have applications that are spread out and technologies that are spread out over the past 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And I think a lot of people, when they talk the DevOps thing, they're pointing that very specifically at a new application architecture that's been rewritten, et cetera. And the problem with the enterprise is that's maybe 3 to 12% of your estate. And I know the headset that we look at, and I would encourage us to look at together, is to think about how to move the modern way for everything, all your technologies, new, legacy. In fact, we're going to be showing off some things specifically later this morning and doing some demos on this exact topic. And I think the interesting part about this is collectively, I think the industry is probably not even 10% along the way of this. And they're looking to people like you and your peers and everyone that's here to help them. And so I think rather than saying, gosh, we're not very far along, there's a lot of excitement that I have because I think the benefits are really worth it. And even though it's hard and challenging and some days are frustrating, you are actually changing how your companies work and making them more competitive in the marketplace. And I want to talk about some things that we've seen and back to those collective learnings. These are the things that those high-performing companies, those coded enterprises, that they're actually doing. And I want to break down this and spend a little bit of time on each of these. And the first, which is good for us and why investors talk about total addressable market or TAM being very big in this category. And it's because all the high performers, the first step and the foundation of the new way is they automate everything. But I do want to just make a distinction that I see between the high performers and the low performers. And the high performers are pretty hardcore, and they apply that automation sort of across the board, and they have a platform, and they orient on that. And on the other end of the spectrum, we still see a lot of experimentation and sort of, I would say, lack of commitment. And what happens is a lot of times they're still running sort of the old platforms from over a decade ago, and then they've brought in automation to various pockets, and everyone's doing their different own thing. And it's sort of like imagining an auto manufacturer, actually manufacturing a car, a different way depending on where they're located geographically or what the mood is or whatever. And I would just encourage you, and look, whether it's our platform or somebody else's, get really good at it, choose it, and make it uniform and commit to it across the board. The second one's a really interesting and important concept, which is in those high-performing organizations, in the coded enterprise, code is actually the lingua franca of how teams talk with each other. And I'll give an example, and I'm going to punch security a couple times in a positive way. Those high performers, I didn't mean punch security. Those high-performing organizations, as an example, security, rather than creating documents or just sort of passing judgment on what's going on in the application world, they actually talk to the app teams and the infrastructure teams in the world of code, right? They make software tests, they pass them over, and you know what dev teams, you know what infrastructure teams know what to do with? They know what to do with software tests. It's very difficult to get a PDF document and figure out how that applies to you, and I'm sure many of you have lived through that. And it's an example that we see of all those teams starting to use code as the common language, using it as the language of collaboration. Every change is tested, and I mean every. There's nothing that gets to production that hasn't passed an exhaustive set of tests, including compliance and security tests. And I talked about security, and I want to come back to it because it's a really important one, is in high-performing organizations, security and velocity, they support and reinforce each other. And we were having a pretty good debate on which comes first. Is it security reinforcing velocity or velocity reinforcing security? And it doesn't really matter. But the point is, and there's a couple of elements that are really important on this. One of them I already mentioned. If you can define security as software tests, then that just becomes part of how you ship any change in the organization. But secondly, and very fundamental also, is the most secure organizations are those that everything is up to date, current, patched. They're not running old operating systems. They're not rolling old kit. And to do that, you want to quickly be able to update and patch your environment, your fleet. Because there's a race out there when there's known vulnerabilities. Who can get there more quickly? Can your team, or can all these bad actors that are trying to get in your doors? And so there's no question high performers, those security teams, they're part of the velocity game. And I want to talk about this one because this is a big shift from when I grew up in the IT world. Back in my day, you'd start with infrastructure, right? You'd lay down infrastructure, and then you'd build applications on top of that. And I think the future world, automation moves to a different place. Automation moves to the application. And you start with an app-centric view of the world. And infrastructure is still an incredibly important job, but it flows off the application choices, not the other way around. And there's a bunch of implications just headset-wise of how you think about life inside IT in that world. So I want to get everyone starting to think about that because I think there's no question that's where the industry is going. And if you go look at those coded enterprises that are really good at it, they often have a single or maybe a very small number of paths to production, right? If they release a change, if they release software sort of anywhere in the world of IT, there's not a bunch of ways that gets to production. In fact, I would argue over time you want a single path to production. If you're an enterprise, a lot of times you have hundreds and maybe 1,000 paths to production based on that very diverse set of technologies and applications that you have over a number of years. And so think of part of the job as how do I narrow those down into a smaller set? And at maximum, I'd think of those paths, you should be able to count them on a single hand. And I think if we really come back here 3 or 4 years, you want to look like the highest performing companies. You want to have a single path to production. And then the game, and I started this off with this, is how to continuously create customer value, right? That's our job. And it's very easy in the world of IT and infrastructure and operations to get a little insulated with what actually the customer drama and the company drama is going out there. And I would just advise is everything you do, swim up and go find and latch on to those outcomes that your company is trying to drive. Be able to talk in the language of business. And this is also something when I meet with customers, I can pretty quickly tell what's on people's mind. And the highest performing ones are very connected, cross-function, and they have the things that they're working on are tied to those business outcomes or those organizational outcomes, not to the details of how quickly can I provision my stuff and all that. And it's not that those things aren't important. They are, but understand the business context and what we're really driving for. And I'd like to take the next couple minutes and actually invite someone up that has gone through this exact drama, actually started with a company that was not born in the digital world, was sort of a pre-web company, and then went on their own transformation to sort of be a coded enterprise or to absolutely be a coded enterprise in the modern world. So with that, I'd like to invite up Brittany Woods from Carfax. Brittany's on the team that has driven automation, and she's also an amazing clarinet player. So Brittany, get out here, please. Really good to see you.
You too. Thank you. All right, so just diving right in. So as Barry mentioned, Carfax plays a big role in helping millions of people buy and sell used cars. So as a part of that, customer experience and reliability is critical for our business. So we need to ensure that not only can our customers count on us to deliver no matter the day or time, but also that we're providing the most accurate data that we can. So to do so, we have to have reliable and secure infrastructure. So as our business has progressed, it's also become more important than ever to continue to innovate. And part of that is to facilitate collaboration through code. So being able to collaborate allows us to fix things faster, build things faster, but also it brings each employee up to their highest potential. So collaboration at the end of the day is going to facilitate this learning and growth. Collaboration through code, though, isn't just something that's going to happen overnight. So these are going to rely on a foundation made up of the company's entire tech team, that's development, security, operations, all of them. So bringing these teams together, historically we were super siloed, not Carfax in particular, but as an industry. This is going to present some challenges, which I'm going to refer to as gaps. So these gaps include a duties gap. The duties gap is the we speak different languages gap. There's also the knowledge gap, which is, it kind of ties into that with duties. We speak different languages, we do different jobs, I do my job, you do your job. The process gap, which is the we're buried in past processes, and we're super comfortable there. And then the empathy gap, which is the lack of understanding of how you're impacting others. So for me, in order to become a coded enterprise, you have to close these gaps, and Chef can help with this. So a unique take for Carfax on how we got there was we started off using Chef with just our infrastructure teams, and not just one team, but all of the teams. So instead of having a single team start, we had system engineers doing what they're comfortable with, network engineers doing what they're comfortable with, because they were the experts in their solutions. So that was our step one for collaboration. But in order to attain that collaboration through code, you have to have people and an approach that makes sense to get everyone working together toward a common goal. So eventually, many of our development teams began to use Chef as well to be able to self-serve. So getting all of these teams involved, it can end up adding some complexity. And so to avoid getting bogged down, we made sure that everyone started at the same square one. We all trained in the standards for Chef that we were going to follow. And then as new members joined our pack, we made sure we brought them up to those standards as well, so they could feel empowered to change. So in my opinion, early digital transformations have to have standards. Not a lot of standards, so don't be afraid of standards, just some. But what does this have to do with being a coded enterprise? So just learning Chef Infra, Inspect, and Automate helped us facilitate growth for our infrastructure teams. And then allowing them to learn that taught them to speak the same language as the development teams, which aids in closing that knowledge gap. And allowing the development teams to learn Chef and then self-serve aided in closing that duties gap, because now we all cared about the same thing. And all of us together following the same development methods for Chef and the same processes for Chef naturally began closing those process and empathy gaps. So charging down this path has sparked growth and transformation for every one of us. But most importantly, it's supported our business goals by keeping the customer experience and reliability at the forefront of that transformation. So we've collaborated and put the best of ourselves and our knowledge to task, and we started thinking of everything as code. So by putting the focus on our systems and embracing automation, we can be sure that our systems aren't special anymore, but they serve a purpose, and that's defined in source-controlled code, and it follows a standard procedure. So this approach allowed us to have confidence to move quickly. It gave us the ability to deliver products faster, and we still have that reliability that our customers need. So every one of us are in this journey together, right? Everybody in this room is on the same journey. We're just in different places. So some of us are 25% of the way there, and that's going to look different than those of us that are 50% of the way there and 75% of the way there. But that's the point. So each stage of this transformation is going to look different, but we all have these gaps in common. We're all going to hit them. And so all of this is to say that each step of your journey, you'll need to evaluate how far you've come and each of Barry's 7 steps, and then make sure where you're going next. And so I want to thank all of you for letting me come out here and talk to you, but I also look forward to talking to everyone in here about their journey.
So Brittany, before I let you off, if you could jump back in time when you started Carfax, what's one thing that you've learned and you would change and do differently if you had to do over again?
So hindsight, having the benefit of hindsight here, I think it's really important to involve the development teams sooner in the process. So we started with our infrastructure teams, got everyone on board with Chef, and then started teaching development teams and bringing them on board. So in hindsight, I think we would have benefited more bringing those development teams in from the beginning, getting them at the table, and then we could have closed this faster.
Yeah. Well, Brittany, thank you. Great job. Okay, we talked about those 7 things. Those were all pretty strategic and sort of the frame. And I want to take it down a couple notch and get into tactical mode and talk about a little more detail. And if I were in infrastructure and operations, and I guess I could argue I kind of am, certainly where I started my career, here's my advice, because I think sometimes you can bite off so much that can just be overwhelming. And the first thing I would say, and there's all these debates over technologies and approach and so forth, And I would just stay out of those a little bit to start with. And I would just make sure that be marvelous at shipping infrastructure code, right? Just stick to your knitting. If you can be better at shipping infrastructure code than the fastest moving application team is, I promise good things will happen for you and your career and your team. And once you're marvelous at that, and by the way, I think marvelous means kind of instantaneous, right? You got to be able to everything immediate and sort of public cloud mode. And once you're great at that, then I would expand that marvelousness into the world of, let's call them infrastructure applications. Because there's usually a set of apps, it's not the app, but they're the supporting apps that either you manage or are very nearby to those infrastructure teams. Things like databases or Tomcat, monitoring applications. And then I'd be great at understanding the dependencies, updating them, make that all so it happens just seamlessly and with very little effort. And then the next step from there, and I'll talk about this a little more in a second, is go into the world of legacy applications. And the good news is hardly anyone wants to go dive into those, and you can really help the company out here, and I want to talk about that in a little more depth. And then only from doing those first three things, then I think you can go talk on the bigger stage and talk about architectural choices and start narrowing those paths to production. And I promise people will listen when you have your house in order. So if I was on a team, that's what I'd push for. And I said legacy applications, so let's talk about this. And legacy apps has been kind of, don't go there, there's dragons. And the reason they're dragons is the people that wrote the applications and even the next generation that came in, everyone's scattered to the wind, no one understands them, and yet the business that probably runs on them and probably your highest value applications often fit in this category. And I think the problem almost always looks like some variation of this. Because everyone's left, no one understands the dependencies, and we've gotten stuck and fearful to touch it or update anything because we don't understand it all. So if there's a new version of OpenSSL, that might require a different set of libraries, and that, in turn, a different set of libraries. So just don't touch it. We don't want to break it. And then every single day you live in mortal fear because we're running this old kit, like we might get hacked, or it might break, or it might fall down. And I understand that. I've lived that, and I've lived a lot of that with you. And it's something that's very front of mind for us. And so we're going to be showing some technology that we have. There's probably other approaches out there in the market. But I think today, Automation Circa 2019 can tackle this problem and can really make some heroes out of you and solve a big problem. Understand those dependencies, update the OS to a current version, whether it's Windows, Linux, or whatever. And then another byproduct is whatever it's stuck on today, often a very specific piece of hardware, and then, as one of our engineers say, you can slip and slide it wherever you want. Next generation data center, cloud, whatever. And the other thing, I want to give a little bit of, politics coaching. And I see at times that infrastructure and operation teams, you just want to do your thing, and you want to be good at it, and you want to stick to the knitting. In fact, I even told you to start off sticking to the knitting. But you're missing some opportunities that can create problems for you downstream. And so the first one, and this sounds kind of obvious, make sure the CIO and the CTO know the good work that you're doing. I can't tell you how many times I meet with a CIO and they actually don't have any idea of some of the amazing things that are going on. So be a little more self-promoty would be my suggestion. And then the second group is enterprise architecture. And these are the teams that are actually making the choices that your organization will live with in defining what IT looks like over the next 3 or 4 years. And I think too infrequently, those I&O teams aren't going and sitting at the table and being part of those conversations. So again, make sure they know the good work that's going on, and they know sort of your plans and the ambition and roadmaps that you have and some of the things that you're working on. And then lastly, I want to talk about modern application teams. And there's a couple tells here on how your organization works. The first question is, are those modern application teams consuming your stuff as an infrastructure team? And if the answer is no, or if they have a whole bunch of opinions and recommendations on infrastructure, what they're really saying is, I don't like the product that I'm getting. And I think you have to take that to heart, and you have to understand what they need, because we don't want to be the infrastructure team that today is the 90% of everything that's not the hot, fast-moving, whatever. We want to be of it all. And I'd make sure that you're very aligned. And even if they're not consuming your stuff, I'd do some sharing again with them and make sure they feel good about the choices you're making and where you're going. Because I'll tell you what, that CIO and CTO, they for sure are listening and giving a lot of their ear to those modern application teams. And you don't want to be out in the cold in those conversations. And I said this a minute ago, and I'll come back to it, 2019. I see a lot of best automation practices circa 2014. And I think we've all come a long way, and we're going to be showing some of these things. We've been talking about it. I know the teams you meet with from Chef spent a lot of time on this. Let's get automation circa 2019, because we've, together, those collective learnings, we've brought the craft forward significantly. And we want to continue bringing it forward over the next 3 or 4 years. And in the setup, I said I'd be talking about Chef and what's going on in our world. And the first thing I want to talk about, if you follow us closely, you probably saw at the beginning of the year that our founder, Adam, who wrote Chef and wrote Habitat, is moving to be a full-time board member for us. And none of us would be here in this room. ChefConf wouldn't exist. Chef wouldn't exist as a company if it wasn't for Adam. And if I think about delightful humans that I've had a chance to know and work with in my life, very, very top of the list. And I've been fortunate to work with Adam over the past 6 years, and hopefully I'll work with him over the next 6 and 12 and 18. And Adam's not here this second. He's flying in tonight, but he's talking tomorrow. And I'm going to thank him again, and I would encourage everyone to find Adam, give him a hug, thank him. We wouldn't be here with Adam. So a big thank you to Adam Jacob. Yeah. Okay, so to sort of wrap up, the other thing I get asked is, how's business? How are things going? And while I don't want to, sort of pound into a bunch of details on this that I think are probably uninteresting and get in the way of the things that we have to talk about, I do want to make some touch points. And the first is, because of the work that we're doing together, and I think this is a very exciting time for Chef, we're seeing accelerating innovation with our customers going on. And because of that, it's actually accelerating our growth. And investments we made, and I talk about, we went through the great insecurity of how's Habitat fit in, what are we going to do with it, should we have invested in Inspect. Somewhere around the middle of last year, the middle of 2018, I would argue that Chef exited the great insecurity, and these things are working and coming together really well. It's actually what's fueling our growth acceleration right now. And one of the big things that we did this year in April, and we've been working on it and thinking about it for most of 2018, is what is the business model and what's the license model that we want for the next 10 years? And Corey's going to be talking about some detail around this, of the implications and how we make products and how we do development. But there was a couple of fundamental things under this. One is, what is free and what's commercial? And the other was, what's open source and what's proprietary? And I'll just take that second part for a second and share some things that were going on inside the company. So I've been here 6 years. And for 6 years, there'd been this sort of high-friction debate every time we were releasing something interesting of should it be open source or should it be proprietary, and who has access to it, and is this for our community or is this for our customers? And I would make the argument that friction like that in an organization, it's unhealthy. It's unhealthy for us. It's unhealthy for you. It slows things down, and we wanted to get rid of that. And so we made the decision, after also some hand-wringing, to go 100% open source. And this meant taking everything that had been under a proprietary license and actually releasing that also to the commons. Thank you. Thank you. And we want to be great stewards of that work. And there will be many people that don't do business with us, and I just want to say that's okay. We welcome you in warmly. We want to collaborate with you. We want to make those projects awesome. And you have my commitment and the company's commitment that we will do that always. And for others, there'll be a set of things, and we want to be very clear about that, of why do business with us. And for those, 4 simple things. First of all, we will make and package enterprise distribution based on that open source software. The second, and I think this has been too hard in the past, and we want to make this much easier, is the easiest way to update your Chef world, right? And that might be the Chef client, that might be the Inspect client, that might be Chef infra content, cookbooks, recipes. Might be Inspect profiles, the CIS benchmarks, if you're in the federal government, STIG. And it might be the habitat plans and packages. So we want to create the easiest mechanism, and we're using some of our own kit to make that much easier than it's been in the past. The third thing is expertise. So this is humans, and many of you had a chance to work with our team. I feel so fortunate and humbled by the quality of humans that we've been able to attract as a company, and we want to keep this bar very high. And then lastly, assurance. And assurance means a couple things. First of all, it's break-fix support. So if something goes wrong, you have a human that you can get a hold of to help you. And then you may not care about it, but likely there's someone at your company that cares about things like warranty and indemnification, and we want to make sure that's part of it. Okay, so I want to wish everyone just a fantastic week here. I want to thank everyone for coming to ChefConf. And with that, I want to invite our next speaker, our Senior Vice President of Product and Engineering, Corey Scobie. Corey, come on out.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you. What's up, ChefConf? How's it going? All right. I want to thank Barry. He's always thought-invoking and insightful, and I have to tell you, it's a privilege to get to work with him every single day. So this is my ChefConf. How many of you have been here for 5 years or more? Give me a woot. Nice. Okay. It doesn't matter whether this is your first ChefConf or whether this is your 8th ChefConf. I'd just like to thank everybody for their amazing commitment to this event and to this community, because it's really spectacular. So talk about community for a second. It's a very special time to be a part of the chef community. With all that's going on in the software industry and all that's going on in the world and in news and in politics, now more than ever, we need strong communities. Communities offer us strength in numbers. They enable us to work together and do more to shape our own future. Communities bind us together with a sense of a shared purpose. And so this is a defining moment for Chef. With our recent announcements about open source software development and about licensing, I hope that our philosophy of software development is unambiguous for you. But just in case it isn't, let me state it for the record. We are committed to 100% open product development. A bit later, some of our great engineers are going to come out and show you some of the fantastic demos and innovations that they've been working on. And you're going to hear a lot more now and in the rest of the week about what we're calling the new chef, which is a different way to think about how to use and deploy our technology. But if you left right now from ChefConf, here's the most important thing that I think you'll hear this week. The best way to build software is to do it in close collaboration with the people that use it. That's it. That is the essence of why we've chosen 100% open. When other companies are closing off their software development or their product development, and there's all kinds of things going on in the software industry at large, this is what we believe. Not only do we believe it, but we live it. This is what drives the values and the way that we actually operate. Our role over the last 10 years has been to facilitate that conversation and to enable collective learning. Barry talked about it already. To enable that collective learning. And we've seen it over and over again. The way it happens most effectively is when we collaborate on something that we can all reference as being the source of truth. And that is code. Collaboration through code is one of the guiding principles of Chef that helps us execute our technology strategy and informs us of how we interact with the community. Most of us in this room, and for those that are watching on the internet as well, feel that collaboration is the best way to build software. But it's also the easiest. When you're working towards something and you have a concrete implementation, it makes the conversation easier, and it helps us all focus and find solutions that work for everyone. There's no end of obstacles in our workplaces, and we believe that the ways that companies and humans can cut through these obstacles is to embrace coded artifacts as the foundation for collaboration. And that's why we built our entire technology stack with a philosophy that code is the path to trust and to velocity in your organization. Collaboration through code enables groups with different languages and different goals to work together. That's a pretty bold statement, but we see evidence of it all the time. Imagine gathering your software engineering manager, your information security officer, and your operations team lead together and asking them to collaborate on a business solution. I hope that doesn't take too much imagination, because it happens every single day. The challenge is that these three representatives all view the world through different lenses. And that's a good thing, because their diversity of thought inevitably leads to a better result if they can just start collaborating effectively. And the easiest way to get them going is to start building an artifact in a declarative language that they can all understand. For the record, this is exactly the kind of collaboration that we see going on in the Chef community right now, as we all collectively work through what's required to launch a community edition of the Chef Infra project and eventually the Chef Inspec and Habitat projects as well. In addition to that kind of collaboration, we also want to enable collaboration at a product development level. And so very soon, we're going to be announcing some tooling that'll help to expose and make more transparent some of the early part of our product development process as well. And so what we want is collaboration to start at the conception of problem solving and continue all the way through implementation. This is all really a logical evolution of what started Chef in the very first place. It was based on the idea that infrastructure should be expressed as code. That way, it would be verifiable, it would be automatable, and it would be understandable. And so we'll keep this collaboration as code theme going as we continue to build out our product portfolio on the same idea that started us. It all started with this idea that infrastructure should be expressed as code. Chef, the project was born, and we spent the first few years developing and expanding this infrastructure as code capability. Next, we realized that security and compliance were major blockers to trust and velocity in the enterprise. So we created a way to express security and compliance as code with Inspec. We followed the same pattern that made Chef so successful. And finally, after some time, we realized that the higher order challenges of packaging and deploying apps through automation required some different thinking, keeping with the basic philosophy that automation is accomplished through codifying an end state. Habitat was born, and eventually we added the ability to express application packages and choreography of those applications as code. And so if all of this sounds like Chef Infra, Chef Inspec, and Chef Habitat, then good, because that's it should, all right? You will notice that we have some new branding on these three products. Chef Infra is really the capabilities that we've always known as the Chef project. We kind of got sick of the complexity of overloading Chef the company and Chef the project and Chef the product all together. So going forward, we'll be referring to it as Chef Infra. And of course, Chef Inspec is the Inspec project, and Chef Habitat is the Habitat product. And all of these three products form the foundation of our enterprise automation stack. The best way to solve problems within your business is to collaborate through code. This is really a fundamental belief that we share at Chef. And you heard Brittany at Carfax talk about how they've leveraged code as the foundation to normalize and encourage collaboration across their organization. What does it mean in the real world, though? What happens when we actually do the collaboration through code? Well, starting with Chef Infra, the basis of the collaboration is, of course, cookbooks and recipes. The second part is we added Chef Inspec, and so collaboration comes from describing security and compliance as profiles, which we then automate. And of course, with Chef Habitat, the artifact that we create is a plan file, and it describes the application dependencies, and all the choreography that's required for that application to be successful. So I want to take a step back and unpack the product philosophy behind the three components in this alignment. And so we're going to take a look at a slightly more technical breakdown. I call this the layer cake diagram. And usually I draw it on a whiteboard. But I thought it might be a little awkward for the 1,000 of you to all come and huddle around my whiteboard here. So we turned it into some slides. And it starts with a system that's built from a standard operating system image. I think this is pretty straightforward. We all understand this process. On top of that, you layer a whole bunch of other stuff that I know you're all familiar with. You've got system libraries, you've got packages, you've got middleware, and then eventually you have an application that you want to deploy on the system. And the trick is that we need all of these things to be in perfect alignment for the application to be successful. We need the right versions of all of the dependencies in order for everything to work. Since the beginning of time, or at least the beginning of configuration management and automation, the prevailing concept was that we built these systems from the bottom up. That we, by creating layers and layers of infrastructure automation that ensured that all of the libraries and packages and middleware and all of the pieces that an application needed to be successful were there in exactly the right form with exactly the right version. And of course, because we're all kick-ass engineers, we modularized it, and we componentized it, and we variabilized it, and all of the automation assets that we needed to construct our layer cake became this massive web of dependencies. And it doesn't take long before we fall victim to our own success. What happens is creating a system image that supports our fleet of applications results in this complex web of automation scripts and libraries. And you quickly realize that the more components that you have, the more complex the dependencies, and that changing one component can have an immeasurable effect. So we decided to rethink this completely. And we solved this fundamental problem with Habitat by changing the abstraction between infrastructure and applications. In this layer cake, the bottom layer is managed by Chef. This is where you write your cookbooks, and it's really focused on infrastructure automation and hardening, that OS layer. All the other layers are managed by Habitat. And so this establishes a very clear boundary between the operating system and the software that sits on top of it. All the software that's needed for an application to run successfully on any system is bundled together with its dependencies, as well as any installation or choreography that's required. And these set of instructions ensure the success of that application in any environment. And of course, this is all supported by security and compliance validation from top to bottom, from the operating system all the way through to the application. And so that's how we think about the application-centric way to think about IT automation, about systems automation, about configuration management, and all the things that we've been doing for the past decade. So I'm going to come back to our product architecture diagram here, and you can see how all of these pieces come together to start or form the foundation of the enterprise automation stack. We have Chef Infra, we have Chef Inspec, Chef Habitat, which form the core of the automation engines. On top of that, to provide enterprise-level observability and control and insights, we have Chef Automate, which has all of the engines reporting into it. And to smooth the developer experience, we've created Chef Workstation, which helps you install, configure, and keep up to date with all the latest tools on your system so you can start writing or customizing your automation artifacts and collaborating through code as quickly as possible. One of the pieces of feedback that we've heard over the course of the last few years, and we've taken it to heart, is that it's hard to update our software in the real world. There are a whole bunch of reasons why that may or may not be true. But ultimately, upgrades can be hard, and we don't want them to be hard. And so we've been thinking about how to leverage the assets of the enterprise automation stack in a better formation to make upgrades to both content and the systems and the core software itself easier. So this is a pattern that's been emerging for a while, but basically what we did is we turned to our stack to make updates to the component in our stack. Specifically, we built Habitat to make it easier to deploy updates to apps in your environment. But if you think about Chef software as the same way that you deploy apps with the same principles, this is essentially what you get. We started by rethinking the basic way that our core software actually gets to the systems that you're trying to automate. And the Jedi mind trick here is to think about Chef and Inspec as just another piece of software that you need on your nodes. So it's a very generic, here's a very generic system. This diagram is a very generic system, of course, that is using Chef Habitat to deploy Chef Inspec, or Chef Infra and Chef Inspec. And of course, you have hundreds or potentially thousands of these in your environment. Next, we need to add the central control and visibility for our Chef deployment. And so this is calling roughly, the EAS server, but it's the collection of sort of singular server components that you need. And you'll note that underpinning Chef Automate and Chef Habitat on an on-prem depot, in this particular case is what we're depicting, of course, is Habitat to ensure scalability and ease of updates to that stack of software as well. The last main element in our diagram is, of course, content. And so here we have Chef cookbooks, Inspec profiles, Habitat, plans and packages. And so that's our whole world of content. And so the way that this all comes together Okay, so the way that this all comes together are these following three steps. Chef content and Chef Inspec are mixed together to form packages, and we store those in the Hab Depot. That becomes the control point. Via Habitat, the depot becomes the control point for both Chef Inspec and all of its associated content. And then, of course, Chef, Inspec, and any other apps that are deployed via Habitat report their status back up to Automate for visibility. So that's essentially the life cycle that you get. This diagram represents the very latest deployment architecture of Chef, Inspec, Automate using Habitat to deploy the core engines and combine it with the content that's been validated in one easy package that's easy to deploy and easy to update. And we're going to see more on this in a moment when we get to the demos. Not only have we been thinking about our technology and the details of how we deploy and manage software, we've also been thinking about the buying experience. We wanted to make sure there are some easy, simple ways to procure bundles of our software that match up to the most popular deployment patterns that we see in customers. And so I would like to announce the availability of 2 bundles of our core software. The Effortless Infrastructure Bundle, which combines Chef Infra, Chef Inspec, and Chef Automate to simplify the deployment and management of secure, hardened operating systems. And the Enterprise Automation Stack, or EAS bundle, which combines Chef Infra, Chef Inspec, Chef Habitat, and Chef Automate to provide top-to-bottom automation for systems and applications, including enterprise-class observability and management. These 2 bundles are designed to make it easy for Chef customers to obtain a licensed subscription to Chef's commercial software distribution, for systems management and hardening, or for deploying applications via Chef Habitat. However, and this may be the case, if the bundles aren't your thing and you just have a need for the individual components, individual or a la carte pricing is also available, and you should talk to your chef rep to get more details on that. Earlier, just a few minutes ago, we heard from Barry on our new license details, and he shared some of the value that Chef's commercial distribution offers. Here's my product view on how you'll experience value with a license subscription to Chef, either in one of the bundles I just announced or in the individual products themselves. Starting with the enterprise distribution. This is the best way to get the best build tested against the most platforms with the most assurance that you can possibly get of the components of the enterprise automation stack. It's validated, it's curated. Wherever you are, you have certainty that the software that you're getting is software that's going to work in your environment. Enterprise content and updates refers to the way that we can simplify the implementation and updates of an entire Chef ecosystem, providing curated content for the technology you deploy, so you don't only get the engine, but you also get content that makes it valuable. And again, we're going to show you some demos of this coming up that I think are really compelling. Automation expertise gives you access to the humans at Chef. These are humans who are constantly learning and collaborating with you and our community, making them some of the most knowledgeable partners you could possibly ask for. And then last, and certainly not least, is assurance and support, which of course gives you the ability to interact with Chef, the software company, and for us to be there to support you when things are going well and when things are not going well. Happens sometimes. And as Barry mentioned before, there's somebody, it may not be you, but there's somebody in your organization that cares about things like warranty and indemnity as well. And so if we put this entire package together, that's what gives you the value that you need as an enterprise customer. And of course, it's all built on the foundation of our open source software. Okay, so now it's time for the fun part. We're going to show you some of the latest innovations and patterns that we've been working on for a while. To set the stage for the next 40 minutes or so, we're going to show you some working integrations of the effortless infrastructure pattern and of the full enterprise automation stack. I'm going to bring out a very special guest to the stage to share some of their recent experience in working with these patterns in the real world. And then we're going to cap it off with a fantastic solution demo that's targeted at an app migration challenge that I think many of you are facing. So without further ado, I'd like to invite out to the stage a fantastic Chef community member and one of the stars of our Learn Chef Rally site, Jody Wolfborn. Jody.
Thank you, Corey. Woo, hello. For over 10 years, people have been using Chef software to code away their infrastructure woes and accelerate their deployment life cycles. Like Corey illustrated with his hunger-inducing layer cake analogy, we've historically taken an infra-centric approach to the software world, giving us a complex web of dependencies to manage for each application we're running. And even with the awesome automation tools like Chef provides, the more complex a solution or environment, the more error-prone your deployments are going to be, which means you might have impact to your application and ultimately your customers. But today, I get to introduce you to some of the awesome engineers whose hard work and collaboration has made it possible for us to help you take an app-centric view of the world. So, by letting the application define and manage its own dependencies, you reduce the amount of complexity in your code base, and changes propagate smoothly to production and to your customers. Sounds pretty nice, right? Yeah, thank you. To show you this in action, please help me in welcoming from our software and solutions engineering teams, David Echols and John Snow. All right, David is going to introduce us to the effortless pattern, which moves the messy infrastructure layer of our cake into a nice, tidy package.
Thanks, Jody. Well, let's talk about building a Chef Infra package that bundles together the Chef Infra client with our cookbooks. So instead of pushing cookbooks to a Chef Infra server, and then instead of bootstrapping my node and managing cookbook versions and managing the version of the Chef Infra client and a whole bunch of other stuff, I'm just going to do this build. And it's going to make a package that allows me to install that anywhere I want. I'm going to install that on my node. As a result, this effortless pattern eliminates a number of surprising failures that you might get in your production environment. That way you get actionable insights before anything is deployed.
Nice.
Now, Effortless uses Habitat to build a package. So we start by building a plan.sh. I have this up here already. So this plan.sh is pretty cool. It's pretty small. It allows us to specify a version of the Chef Infra client. So here's where I'm specifying and pinning that version. Now, this means when we eventually run Chef Infra, we can have a guarantee about the version of the Chef Infra client that our cookbooks run with. Of course, if we wanted to, we could always use the latest version by leaving off the version number at the end, like this. But for the sake of this demo, we'll keep the version pin for now. So to see how all this works, we're going to build a package. Now, over here, I'm already in the clean room build environment that Chef Habitat provides. So to build our package, all I need to do is type build effortless. Now, this is going to take just a few seconds to run. And what this is doing is going and grabbing all of the runtime dependencies that the Chef Infra client needs. It's grabbing all of my cookbooks. It's building them with a policy file. Oh, and it's done.
That was fast. You didn't even finish saying what all was going on before it finished.
To be fair, I pre-cached the build for the stage here, so it runs a little faster. But a cold run only takes about a minute to build. So in under a minute, our Chef Infra package is built and ready to be run in whatever environment that we need.
Nice, that's awesome. But even with how effortless that configuration was, wouldn't there still be a lot more work to get all your Chef Inspec profiles ready and...
Well, Chef Habitat makes that a little easier by allowing those same effortless patterns to our audits. Now we can create a plan.sh file for our Chef Inspec application as well and update which controls we want to skip or add by simply building a new package. Chef Inspec will then allow us to audit our systems and send that compliance data report up to Chef Automate, where we can prioritize remediations and then go back and start updating our Chef Infra packages accordingly.
Okay, that does sound easier too, but it still requires us to write Chef Infra cookbooks, Chef Inspec profiles, and Chef Habitat plans, right? So we might need to hire a chef expert in order to help us.
That used to be the case, but I think Jon Snow might have something that can help us. And even though Kit Harington's Jon Snow knows nothing, this Jon Snow knows effortless.
Yeah, you might say that I code and I know things. And one of the things that I know is you're right. Even with the compliance profiles in Chef Automate and all of the stuff in Builder and all of the Chef Infra community content, we really haven't accomplished effortless yet. Lucky for everybody here, though, I have what I think is going to be truly effortless infrastructure. We're going to pick an effortless package and scan on a running system, identify and remediate our controls that we care about, and all without writing any specialized code.
Ooh, that sounds awesome. So to set the stage, the server that we're demoing with here is simply a Windows 2016 box with no Chef Infra client installed and no Chef Inspec installed. The only Chef product on this machine is Habitat.
Precisely. And what we're looking at is the builder, and we're looking at an origin called Effortless Demo. It contains a couple of CIS and some STIG packages and for different operating systems. One of the next demos that we're going to be showing is how you can migrate a legacy application from Windows 2008 to Windows Server 2016. So I want to remediate a Windows 2016 server and get it ready for them.
Each of our supported operating systems has an effortless audit package and an effortless config package, so you can instantly scan and instantly remediate any operating system you're working with.
That's right, and I have a third package here.
Yeah, I think that's worthy of applause.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. We even have this third package here that combines the two of those into one package. So you can get scanning and remediation all in one. So let's take a look at the configuration on that package. The first set of configuration that we have in this package is so that Chef Infra and Chef Inspec can talk to Chef Automate, you know, like a stack. These packages are super special though, because every single control is accessible as a configuration option. I have remediation set to false though, because remediating things that I'm not aware of yet can be super dangerous, and I don't want to end up like that other Jon Snow.
For the watch!
Starting the package is as simple as one command. And that's it. All right, Jody, the package is loaded. It's going to take about a minute or two for it to run, but I've already run this on a server, so let's take a look.
Ooh, nice. So now that we know how compliant our system is based on this package, we can easily customize our audits by filtering by the profile we actually care about.
Yeah, I mean, with the old pattern, what you would need to do is you need to write a wrapper profile around our package. And then we'd have to write some Ruby and some inspec that includes or excludes the specific controls that we are concerned with. And then, because we're good developers, we want to push all those changes through a pipeline. Even filtering for the controls in Automate was a little bit more difficult. But now, we've added some features so that all I have to do to search for controls is use keywords. And this is super helpful when I have thousands of servers, and all I want is the compliance status for a single control.
Yeah, so our compliance features have always shown you the health of your Chef Infra nodes, but this highly requested feature gives you the ability to view the health of all of your systems based on just the controls you care about.
Yeah, it's super awesome, but denying access from the network is probably not super awesome, as it'll probably break my server. Fortunately for us, though, it's as simple, in order to turn this off, is as simple as a single line in a file. I've also set a couple of other things that I'm concerned will break my server, and because I've already done my homework and I'm pretty confident that I'm not going to break my system now, I can set remediation to true.
Make it so, number one.
All right, reconfiguring this on my server is as simple as one command. And that's it. It's going to take another minute or so for Habitat to reconfigure and for Chef Infra to run, as well as Chef Inspec to run and report to Automate.
Sweet. That is like really, really effortless. In under 15 minutes, he just built out an entire box that's totally hardened. So there are over 145 out-of-the-box profiles in Chef Automate, and our team is currently working really hard on converting all of those profiles into these effortless packages. So just like the profiles that are launched into Chef Automate today, we spend a lot of time and a lot of effort to make sure those profiles are what you need and they're high quality. And so far with these effortless packages, we're off to a really good start. But we need your input from all of you so that we can prioritize the remediation packages that will most benefit and be most valuable to you and your business.
Yeah, that's right. Code and collaboration are the core of these packages. And a strong foundation is critical to a stable layer cake. And as Barry and Corey said, the best way to collaborate is around code. So let's work together to make these packages effortless.
So if you're interested in helping us guide which effortless packages are created, reach out to your chef account team and we will get that conversation started ASAP.
All right, Jody. It looks like the package is finished running. And there's our server. And we're compliant.
Nice.
We can now see the skip controls inside of our compliance report. And if we click on the Client Runs tab, we can also see all the attributes that we set for the chef client run. And that's it. With 3 commands and a file, I was able to deploy and harden my system. We can also use the effortless infrastructure packages to build with our favorite provisioner and create brand new hardened machines. And all of this without any specialized code.
That's awesome. If you all are interested in finding out more about these patterns, our demos today are going to be followed by breakout sessions in the afternoon. So check your ChefConf app for David's session, Effortless Config 101, and John's session, Exception Handling Compliance as Code. Thank you very much, David and John.
Thanks, Jody.
Thanks, Jody.
All right, we all know that managing the coded enterprise is a complex and multi-tiered process. And in addition to making me really want some cake right now, Corey's imagery is a perfect illustration for the multi-tiered approach Chef has taken to helping you navigate these super stormy waters. Our next engineers will demonstrate some of the features that let you power up and leverage the delicious frosting layer of our enterprise automation stack to deliver change quickly, reliably, repeatedly, and securely over every application's lifecycle. Please help me welcoming to the stage Shadae, Holmes, and Scott Ford.
Thank you, Jody.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. You ready for our demo? All right.
Woo!
Let's see. Jody, I love your dress.
Thank you very much.
It's a pretty bright thing to wear.
I feel pretty brilliant in it. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. This is just me stalling. Sorry. All right, let's see. All right, so I love how Chef is bringing all of our products together with the enterprise automation stack that we've been talking about this morning and allowing teams to codify the glue that holds the application together and further provides visibility into our entire stack. To demonstrate what we've been working on, Scott and I have recently deployed a Chef web application running on multiple services into both an acceptance environment and a separate production environment on Microsoft Azure.
The application that we built consists of an HA proxy load balancer sending traffic to a pool of web servers, ASP.NET web servers, and that's connected to an MS SQL clustered backend. Of course, all of the services that we have there on the screen have been packaged with Habitat and are running under the Habitat supervisor on our VMs in Azure.
So can we switch to our demo? Awesome, that's my screen. Let's see. It's a Command B, Control B.
Control Shift B.
Control Shift, yeah. You're gonna see my bookmarks. Wow, it's staying there. So we've opened Automate, and so in the previous demo, if you can remember, you saw John Snow, and he showed Automate Compliance View and Chef Client Runs View. So this is our Clients Runs View, and quickly moving through these views, you can see that all of the nodes are running, and they're running Chef to harden, patch, and tune our systems for our application. And clicking on compliance, we can see that all of our nodes are passing compliance.
Ooh.
Yeah, just as a note too, that our inspec profiles, Chef Client, our cookbooks have also been packaged with Habitat and are running as services under the Habitat supervisor as John Snow and David just demonstrated in the previous demo.
And Chef Automate provides that observability layer for a unified view into all of the layers of our enterprise automation stack.
So now let's give you a glimpse into one of the features we have been working on at Chef. It's our Enterprise Automation Stack Applications view. And that is the ability to view the statuses of services running for your application using the Enterprise Automation Stack. So,
all right, so using the Habitat Builder Depot, I've just gone ahead and I've promoted a recent build of our application into the acceptance environment. And I can see here in the applications view that some of the services are critical, and also we've got some that are in a warning status.
I know we've all been there, right? Nobody's application ships perfectly every single time. We've all had these times when something is failing and you need to troubleshoot right now. Let's see how we can leverage the applications view to get going in our troubleshooting.
So let's go ahead and let's first of all click on critical. We can just zero in on the services.
Ooh, there
We
it
see
is.
here, right now in the acceptance environment, we've got 3 instances of our web service deployed, and that 0 of 3 instances are actually returning an OK status. So if we click in further, we can see what's going on. Okay. Actually, in this case, it's a really simple fix. I've actually promoted the wrong version of this package into the acceptance environment. So we've made a number of builds, and this just happened to pick the wrong one. But really easy fix with Habitat. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and demote this version from the stable, from my acceptance environment, then go back and promote the correct build into my acceptance environment. And so it would just take a minute for me to go ahead and do that.
yeah, so Scott's making changes. We could chat a little bit more. So using the application view in Chef Automate, we're able to catch changes in acceptance before they're deployed to production. Scott has built a new version of our web package and promoted that to our acceptance environment.
Yeah, we're good.
All right,
Yeah.
so with a quick refresh of the UI, bam, look at that. Everything's passing. There's nothing in critical. Oh, thanks. We can see all the services are up and running. Problem solved. And now we can safely promote our acceptance environment into production. So this is a quick demo of what it looks like to use Chef Enterprise Automation Stack in just one instance. There's so much more value for you to discover. And it's an amazing thing here that just works. Which means more time to focus on building the application itself instead of troubleshooting or maintaining the application. And the Chef team is really hard at work and focused on making this as effortless as possible, and there'll be more to come in the future. Back to you, Jody.
Awesome. Yes, thank you, Shadae and Scott. And now, please help me welcome back to the stage Corey Scobie.
I'm coming, Jody.
There you are.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Jody. Oh, did I bring this? Oh, yeah, I did. Whew, that was close. Almost forgot this. That's important. So first of all, let's have a big round of applause for the demoers, right? Did a great job. I don't know if you could see it because of the demo desk, but you may have noticed Jon Snow actually has the North Remembers t-shirt on. How rock and roll is that, right? I wish I had a name like Jon Snow. All right, so we saw a couple of really great demos using the latest of our software and our thinking in terms of infrastructure management and application orchestration and lifecycle management. The consistent theme that we continue to drive with our product vision will be how do we leverage the right automation technology in the right spot for maximum effect and minimum complexity. I could talk for a long time about how great I think our new deployment patterns are, but instead of doing that, what I want to do is bring out a special guest who can talk to us about his real-world experiences in using all of this stuff that you've just seen. Brad Shelton from General Dynamics Information Technology has been using the Chef Enterprise Automation Stack and effortless infrastructure patterns for quite a while, and I'd love to have Brad come out and share some of his experiences with you. Brad. Nice. Welcome, Brad. Thanks for joining us. To start, tell us how long you've been using Chef at GD.
We've been using Chef about 4 or 5 years now.
All right, so you've seen sort of a life cycle of the patterns in the past, right? The patterns that we just described, effortless infrastructure, and the EAS stack, and using Habitat to control all this. Tell us, you've been using some of that in General Dynamics. What's been your approach, and how has it helped you achieve the outcomes that you're after?
So as far as our approach, we have 300 plus accounts in our environment, and we lack that insight and control, and through Chef tools, we can now say we truly manage and maintain those accounts. So.
Fantastic. And you say 300 accounts, 300 cloud accounts, is that what you're talking about? And I suspect that you're running a relatively large-scale environment. What's your node count today?
We're upwards of 15,000 plus.
Okay. That's like not trivial for sure.
Right.
Okay. So talk to us about your experience in using this, and what are the key steps to getting there?
So our experience in our environment is really focused on security. It takes anywhere from 9 to 18 months to get an authority to even operate in production. A lot of y'all might be aware of time to production, same kind of thing. And we thought to ourselves, there has to be a better way to do this. And utilizing different Chef tools, we realized once you start using all the different components, they start answering the questions for you and really integrating that together.
That's great. And so what have you achieved with all of this? You mentioned ATO, authority to operate. That sounds like a business metric. What does that mean for you, and how does it help you in progressing your agenda?
So we've recently deployed out a new cloud environment. With utilizing the different tools, we're able to get that ATO, or authority to operate, down to 2 months. We were able to do that, which put us well ahead of the game, and we could refocus our efforts on other things in the environment.
Fantastic. Authority to operate sounds suspiciously like a high security environment. Is that a true statement?
It is very true.
We're being a little bit obscure about exactly what project they're working on, but needless to say, there's visibility and security in that environment. All right, so what's next for you guys at GDIT? What's your vision? Where are you taking this next?
So our next component that we're really going for is integrating this in our data center. Really taking that same exact implementation, the way we're doing everything, and using the same thing in our data center to have that seamless visibility into everything, as well as modernizing our legacy systems.
And the scope or the scale of that, is it growing?
That is massive, yeah. You're talking hundreds of thousands of nodes.
All right.
So.
Well, we're looking forward to working with you on that. The last question I have for you is, for others that are thinking about that this sounds interesting and what they like, what they've seen, what advice do you have for them heading down this path?
I'd honestly like to reflect on some of the experience I had. I was at ChefConf last year. Great success stories out on stage. Throughout the whole conference, I heard all these amazing things. And with us being very security-centric in our environment, I was like, that'll never be us. We'll never get to that point. You know, there's so many hurdles and things like that. A lot of speed bumps, a lot of showstoppers for us, because people just can't come into our environment whenever they want. But really, after starting to talk to Chef and the team and the community, I learned we're not alone. A lot of people are facing these same problems, and if we just communicate with that, everybody is willing to help and wants to help you get past those.
That's fantastic. So communication is key.
Yes.
Collective learning. I think we've heard a little about that today. Okay, thanks. That's fantastic, Brad. Before I release you, I know that you are speaking here at ChefConf on a breakout session. When and where's your session?
It is at 2 o'clock tomorrow. You can look in the app. It's GD Chef as a Service. You find us there, or look me up, Brad Shelton.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Brad.
Yeah.
All right.
Appreciate it, guys.
Take care. I've been thinking about Jon Snow's T-shirt this whole time. I can't stop thinking about his T-shirt, actually. I'm rocking my Mudhoney T-shirt, by the way. Are you guys, who's psyched about Mudhoney tomorrow night? Yeah. Mudhoney and Deep Sea Diver. It's going to be great. All right. As you can tell, we really believe in the future of high-performing IT organizations, and that that future is predicated on some of the patterns that we've been talking about today. We are ready to work with you to help in the planning and execution of your environment to take advantage of the latest that Chef has to offer. So if you like what you've seen and you want to engage with us, please go to chef.io/migration and sign up for a free migration readiness assessment, and let's get the ball rolling. Speaking of migration, I'd like to turn to a challenge that I know many of you are facing in your companies and environments. That's legacy or heritage applications. You know, the apps that nobody owns but are still critical to your business. Whether you're grappling with a tough cloud migration project or dealing with one of the never-ending parade of OS upgrades and end-of-life events, we know that migrating applications can be difficult. And we've cooked up a little something that we think is going to make your life easier. Let's get Jody and some of the demo crew back out here to show us what they've got. Jody.
Should we shake this time?
We're going to shake.
Very, very nice. Thank you again, Corey. All right, now I would like to invite out to the stage Trevor Hess and Russell Seymour. Russell is one of our principal engineers, and Trevor is our lead partner solutions architect focused on our relationship with Microsoft. Please welcome them to the stage.
Thanks, Jody. All right, hey everybody. How many of you out there like movies?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, that's awesome. Well, using some of the latest and greatest technology, we set up a website so that you could track your favorite movies. Russell, can you pull up the site, please?
Just getting there, Trevor.
Well, we have some movies loaded in there already, and there's some great ones, and I can't wait to show it to you. How many of you out there saw Iron Man a few months ago? That suit was pretty sweet, huh? We're going to add that to our database. Russell, that's Iron Man, directed by Jon Favreau, released just this past May, so May 2nd, 2008.
Trevor, 2008? Like, do you not see all the ChefConf branding says 2019? Didn't the last Avengers just came out. What are you talking about Iron Man for?
Okay, Jody, all right. I know it's 2019. And we didn't really write this app either. It's an old Microsoft tutorial on ASP.NET MVC1 that was originally written by Stephen Walther. We compiled it and deployed it onto a Windows Server 2008 VM in Azure.
Okay.
But there's a reason for all of these theatrics. Do you know how many people still have applications running on Windows Server 2008?
A lot of people do. And just like Corey said, a lot of the apps are critical to their business.
And time is running out to address these applications. Extended support for Windows Server 2008 goes away January 14th, 2020. Or, by my calculations, 237 days, 14 hours, 24 minutes, and 37 seconds. Those servers may have lived long and prospered, but now it's time to evacuate the applications and the data and self-destruct the servers. There's a few ways that we can handle this. You could rewrite the application, but most of the apps that are running on 2008 aren't worth the time. They're typically applications that produce enough value that they're still around, but not enough value to warrant the cost of a total rewrite.
So kind of like this database application you have. It's definitely of questionable value to rewrite that application, but it does serve a purpose to illustrate to you how we can address legacy software and the impending support again. Typically, we see people make these shifts by doing a lift and shift to get their application into the cloud, where you can still scrape by on Windows Server 2008 for a few more years with some security updates. But your application is still tethered to Windows Server 2008, and it isn't portable to supported operating system versions.
Absolutely. And most folks don't have the resources to put meaningful work towards these heritage applications. Our customers needed a path to move these applications into the cloud as quickly and reliably as possible. So we looked at some of the most common legacy app scenarios, old .NET applications running in IIS on Windows Server 2003 and 2008, and got to work trying to help. When we started, it took us about a week to work together with our customers to package those applications. But we quickly recognized that there were a lot of common patterns that we were finding as we were building these packages. So, as automation experts, we went and built a tool to build that automatically. Now we can capture applications and deploy them in roughly an hour.
Ooh.
We can find your IIS applications on a given server, package them with Chef Habitat, and put them through an Azure DevOps pipeline into a 2016 box, giving you the enterprise automation stack for those legacy applications with very little effort. Russell, do you still have our site up?
Sure do, Trevor.
Well, we're not here to run on 2008 anymore. Our policy says we should be running on 2016. How are we doing?
Well, good on the side that the application's running, but we're not running on 2016.
Well, let's get it out of there. Let's run the Enterprise Automation Stack Migration Accelerator! All right. So, we're looking at IIS for its list of applications. We map the .NET dependencies and bundle all of them together with Enterprise Automation Stack artifacts. We then take those artifacts and upload them to a repo in Azure Repos. We can then automatically enroll those in Azure pipelines and see what works and what doesn't. The accelerator is even smart enough to look at common configuration settings like the web config in IIS applications and automatically parameterize common things like the database connections. So now you can quickly make fixes to code when common challenges emerge, such as needing to point to a new database instance or a different application server. We can now easily validate the changes we made because this app has, for the first time, potentially, a full continuous integration system behind it. Now, you may be wondering what the limits of this tool are. It's actually not all that different from the rest of what we've shown you about Habitat in the past. You can't package 16-bit applications, and you can't package .NET 1.0 applications.
Okay, Trevor, we've got the package, but as you can see, the database is running on the right port, and because I updated the configuration while you were talking. So,
Fantastic.
So the database is now correct, so we can see that we have the application, and to show that that's the case, we can add the Avengers Endgame.
Yep, because that just came out this past April 28th, 2019, this year, the actual current year.
And there we go, the application's running.
Nice. That is awesome.
Yeah, we can capture applications in as little as 10 minutes and get them remediated and deployed back into Azure in as little as an hour.
Wow. That's awesome. Yeah.
So those applications no longer have to be constrained to those operating systems that they're running on before.
Oh, okay. So it doesn't matter if I want my application to live on 2016 or 2019. What about containers? Can I put it in a container?
Jody, I knew you were going to ask that question. And like we've shown you previously at ChefConf, you can export Habitat packages as containers. So if you have an application that you feel is suited to running in a container, all you need to do is export it and deploy it into your favorite container registry.
Nice.
So take a look at this, Jody. We're just putting up the application in an Azure container. It's just waiting to spin up.
There it goes. Woohoo!
And so
That's
you
awesome.
can see that we have the Avengers Endgame there as well.
So this is on a container now instead of 2016.
It is.
That's awesome.
Right. So you can choose the deployment environment that's right for your team. Okay. Your application is no longer tethered to your server.
Woohoo! That's awesome. So, like I said, it doesn't matter if we're on like 2016, 2019 containers or 2072, whatever. We can capture our application, we can deploy it anywhere we need to. And it's easy to pick up and move into whatever new operating system version we need to move to as well.
Yeah, now or in the future.
Awesome.
And we're also working on other versions of this capture tool as well, and looking for customers to collaborate with on building those. So let your chef team know or visit chef.io/migration if you'd like to use the accelerator or explore other app types with us. Time is running out to decommission Windows Server 2008 and other operating systems with impending end of support. And unlike what seemingly every science fiction show out there would have you believe, time travel can't solve this problem, but the enterprise automation stack can. Thanks, Jody.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Jody.
Thank you both for sharing. All right. If you would like to learn more about the Enterprise Automation Stack Migration Accelerators, check out your ChefConf app for the Windows 2008 end-of-life breakout session later today. And now, please welcome back to the stage, Corey.
All right, we're closing in here. One last round of applause for Jody and the entire demo crew. I think they did a great job. Demos are always a little bit of a high wire act, and so it's nice when they actually work in the way that they're designed to. Okay, so we just saw some compelling demos. We highlighted effortless infrastructure, including compliance and security, without writing any code. We looked at the visibility and manageability of apps running on the enterprise automation stack. And just now, we had that kick-ass demo about application migration from Windows 2008 to Windows 2016. And there's more to come on that front with the migration accelerators as well. I want to recap, in a slightly different context, some of the key updates that we have here at the conference. First of all, the Chef Enterprise Automation Stack makes it easier than ever to deliver secure infrastructure applications in any mission-critical environment. And so there's 4 key updates. The first one is we showed you some new DevOps dashboards that give you end-to-end visibility of application lifecycle and troubleshooting for infrastructure and application health. Next, we showed you the new EAS Migration Accelerator. It's now easier than ever to re-platform legacy applications to the cloud. We showed you new effortless infrastructure capabilities, simplified infrastructure and security automation, allowing customization to enterprise-specific needs. And one that we haven't shown you, but you'll hear more about here at the conference, is new support for high availability in Automate. We've got both technical support for high availability and also Chef is offering a managed service. So for those of you that have an Automate deployment and want a highly available multi-node deployment, we have a services offering that'll help you get there as well. The consistent theme as we drive forward with our product vision will be, how do we leverage the right automation technology in the right spot for maximum effect and minimum complexity? Those two things together, maximum effect and minimum complexity. We're going to continue to refine and expand on these core patterns as well as targeted solutions using a combination of our core automation technology and, of course, turnkey deployments by marrying it up with content to achieve the velocity that you need to be a high-performing IT organization. And please don't forget to sign up for a free migration assessment at chef.io/migration. I want to leave you with this. The best way to build software is to do it in close collaboration with the people who use it. This is the statement that I started with, and I'm going to come back to it because it drives really everything that we're doing. It drives how we engage with you, our community. It drives our software and our product development. It embodies how we partner with customers to solve problems. On behalf of all of us at Chef, we are looking forward to collaborating with all of you digital ass kickers over the next few days. This is a great opportunity to disrupt together, to grow together, and to come together as a community. All right, so thank you so much for your support. Next, we're going to do some Chef Awards. And to help me with that, I'd like to invite out Brian Goldfarb, Chef's Chief Marketing Officer, to get it going. Brian.
Hey.
Boom. All right. Hey, ChefConf. How's everybody doing? You've made it through an hour and 45 minutes, and I get to come on stage and do the easy part, which is help give out awards. I'm extremely excited to join this community. I'm relatively new to Chef. I joined in February, and it's truly an honor and a privilege to be here with all of you today, and I'm excited to meet many of you over the coming couple days. The Chef Awards recognize amazing contributions and achievements our customers and community members have made over the past year. These awards were selected carefully from a broad collection of nominations and recommendations, both internally and from many of you in the audience and online. So I get the great honor of bringing up some help to the stage. So I'd like to bring Barry Crist back on, and now Shamroll Harrington back on, so they can help us with these awards. We have all the magic over there. Hey, guys. Perfect. Okay. So we're going to start with the customer awards first. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Excellent. So the customer awards, we have 2 of them this year. The first award is our Effortless Infrastructure Award. And this is about the best use of Chef Infra and Chef Inspect to maintain a consistent, compliant, and secure environment across complicated IT estates.
Sorry.
Barry's mic.
Gesundheit.
The mic is live is the good news.
Anything you say, they're going to hear. So only nice things, please. So this award goes to an organization who's achieved velocity while maintaining security. This company has demonstrated to many what it means to be a coded enterprise. It's companies like this who are delivering the kind of business business impact that frankly we all aspire to see. I'd like to award Jack Henry Associates. Sim Stogner and Chris Dillard, come on up on the stage. So Jack Henry, ooh, the noise. Okay, congratulations. Congratulations. So for those who aren't aware, Jack Henry is a leading provider of integrated technology platforms that banks need to process financial transactions, automate business process, and manage mission-critical information. They've deployed Inspect and Automate widely across their environment to help drive their digital transformation. And we're just so excited about the work that you've done. So thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
All right.
Photo op?
One photo, yeah.
All right, thank you. The next award goes to a customer who has taken on the challenge of application modernization, eliminating the friction that slows down digital transformation. We've all felt this pain. They've embraced an application-centric approach, pushing the boundaries of what enterprise automation can do, and they've been able to achieve some great business outcomes. And I'm honored to announce the winner is Ford Motor Company. Aaron Baker, bring up the team. Yeah. So as you all know, Ford is a global company manufacturing a full line of cars, trucks, and SUVs, electrified vehicles, and more. They're positioned to be a leader in these new areas. They spent the last few years going through a massive digital transformation to reinvigorate their business and address several key objectives. It's a whole crew here. Reducing provisioning from weeks to hours, modernizing legacy applications, and ultimately addressing compliance risk. So let's hear it for Ford Motor Company. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right. That was awesome. That's the easiest part of the whole day. So now I want to hand the mic over to Nell Shamroll Harrington, the head of community engineering for Chef, to do the community awards. So Nell, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you. This is my favorite part of ChefConf. This year, the Awesome Community Chef Awards really reflect how global the chef community is. Our first award winner is a major supporter of Chef in South Africa, a strong and vocal advocate for Chef and open source, contributes widely across Chef Infra, Habitat, and Inspect projects, and you can hear his story tomorrow at 2 p.m. in breakout room 602. Please put your hands together for Carl Fisher.
Carl.
There you are. Come on over here. Congratulations.
We've got a beautiful personalized picture.
Thank you. Thank you, Carl. Our next award winner is an incredible Habitat resource that has helped trailblaze the use of Habitat and is all-around awesome resource for our community. He's not able to be with us this year in person, but please congratulate him when you find him online at the Habitat Slack. Please put your hands together. We want him to hear us all the way from Europe. Josh Bash.
Now I was going to wear it.
Thank you, Josh. We'll be getting that to you shortly. All right, this community member, our next award winner, has been instrumental in keeping Habitat up to date with core plans. He is willing to help and get other folks started working on core plans. I've been working a lot with him personally. He gives impromptu tutorials on Habitat to our community. Please put your hands together in a big round of applause for Graham Weldon. Woo! Congratulations. All right, our fourth award winner. When I found out who this was, I immediately wanted to be the one to give out this award. This is a Chef employee and community member who is very near and dear to my heart. If you don't work with this person on a daily basis, you might never know which team he's on. He's a part of General, Inspect, Test Kitchen, Community Distros, and other channels in the Chef community Slack, and he's in the Habitat Slack too. He is constantly helping people in all aspects of Chef on all support platforms. And on top of that, he also has a physical community presence, showing up at meetups, DevOps days, and other conferences. His support and willingness to help others doesn't stop with Chef. He really wants people to be successful with DevOps, Automate, and even software development itself. Even if he doesn't know the answer, he is happy to be with you and willing to explore and research the solution with you. Please give a giant round of applause for Rob Kidd.
Get that up there.
Now, Barry, I don't think we're done yet.
No, I don't think so.
I think we have one more award to give out. What do you say? Do we have one more award?
I think we should do one more thing.
A Lifetime Achievement Award?
I think a Lifetime Achievement Award would be amazing.
And I've got one in mind.
Do you really?
I do indeed.
So what things would make up a Lifetime Community Achievement Award? I mean, if we were just to brainstorm, what could that be?
Well, I would say this person needs to be a force multiplier in the community.
I like force multiplier. Brian, Corey, what else?
Just lots of tenure, been around for a long time.
Tenure. Like it probably has done more meetups,
Than anyone
customer
else.
meetings, than anyone on the planet. That'd be good. That'd be good. Corey, what else?
I think they should be an awesome business hugger.
Yes. Yes. Maybe the best business
The best
hugger
business hugger ever.
on that planet I was
Yes.
referring to.
And also suspenders. I think there's something about suspenders.
Suspenders. And maybe corned beef
Hash.
Maybe, I think so. I think so.
Definitely
Nathan,
probably that.
get your digital ass-kicking self up here. Nathan Harvey,
Yes!
Lifetime Achievement Award. Woo!
Congratulations.
Come on.
Get it, bring it in here.
Congratulations. Oh, good.
Here, where are we? Where are we? Thank you. You're not going anywhere. You got to stay here.
I feel like we should make Nathan talk.
Yeah,
And
we're not
Nathan,
going to let
this is
Nathan
not
off.
prepared.
We're not going to
So
let
he
him off the
doesn't
hook
know.
like that, right? Like we can't just like come up here for all of his commitment, give him a hoodie, and then send him off the stage.
I mean, at a minimum, I should ask the same zinger I asked Brittany. Like, what thing would you do different if you could time travel back to whenever you started? I was trying to remember. Was it like 7 years ago, 8 years ago?
Yeah, it was eight or 9 years ago.
Yeah, all right.
It's
Maybe.
been a minute.
I nicked a year off you there. Sorry.
Maybe.
It was probably
It's good.
year.
Thanks.
What would you tell us, Nathan? This
Wow.
is unprepared, by the way.
So, first of all, let me just read my notes. Prepared a speech for me. Just going to get a little closer. Nathan Harvey. All right. Thanks.
You could go with the coded enterprise.
That's all you
I
get.
could go with the coded enterprise. I don't see it down there. Is it somewhere? No. Listen, I'm not going to answer your question. I just want to say.
It's the luxury of not working here anymore.
Honest to a fault is criteria as well.
I just want to say thank you to everyone that's in this room and everyone that's ever been a part of the chef community. It is because of all of you that we all are awesome. We've been through a lot together, both good and bad, and I am absolutely humbled to be able to work and to know you and to chat with you. So thank you all very much. Continue making awesome. I love you. Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent shirt.
Here, give me your mic. I got it.
All right. Now we have to follow that. This is the hardest part of my speech. Congratulations. Let's give one more round of applause for Nathan, huh? And then one more for all of our award winners. So I have a couple things to wrap up. All of us at Chef are committed to building an amazing community, and we've been focusing a lot at this conference on how we can introduce more wellness into what we do. It's a very important part of any conference and frankly any job or any part of our lives. And so we've been working hard in building this community based on respect and proper treatment of our entire group of chefs. The Chef Code of Conduct contains our expectations of how community members and attendees at this event behave. You can review this in the ChefConf app. The Code of Conduct monitors who are wearing light blue, I didn't pick the color unfortunately, shirts are located throughout the event. If you have any issues or questions or comments or anything, you can identify them and you can talk to them and they will help you with whatever it is that you need. We've also added some features to the conference to help anyone who needs it. We have a quiet room where you can go and get some space if that's what's necessary, and we also have a mother's room available for attendees that require it. And you can find the locations and all that information in the handy ChefConf application. So we're pretty excited about that. And last but not least, I would be remiss to not talk about the fun, because that's really after the breakouts why everybody's here. So tonight we have some fun. We have an evening reception in the exhibit hall on the 7th floor that begins at 4 o'clock, I believe. Join us for a bite and a beer and learn about the awesome ecosystem that's up there, talk to our partners, talk to our customers, and see what's going on. And after the reception, please join us for game night. It's going to be awesome. There's board games, there's role-playing games. People are leading some D&D stuff up there, and there's going to be food and beverages and everything that I think the chef community demands. So it'll be really great. And that kicks off at 7 p.m. So once again, thank you all for coming. Thank you all for being here, and have an amazing ChefConf. Thank you.